What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
Well, lo and behold, what comes up next is a nurse named Kristen Gilbert at the Northampton, Massachusetts VA Medical Center. And she allegedly murdered about 30 of our nation's heroes. And that was a very, very, very interesting story because Kristen Gilbert, if you look at her, well, she looks like a typical mom, a typical soccer mom. All right. As a matter of fact, you know, my vision of a serial killer had always been like a Charles Manson type. You know, a guy with a crazy haircut and a swastika on his forehead. No, here comes a typical soccer mom. Oh, hi, Bruce. Yeah, I'll talk to you after I take the kids back from soccer. You know, like a typical soccer mom, not somebody that you would suspect necessarily is capable of killing 30 or more people.
How did she come onto your radar again?
Well, through very, very brave whistleblowers, all right, because in my office in New York, now we have to remember, I was responsible for all major criminal investigations involving the VA from West Virginia to Maine. Now, how the heck am I going to know what's going on in every hospital from West Virginia to Maine, okay? Yeah. The only way I'm going to know is if people come forth and call us and trust us to do the right job, all right? So there were a number of nurses on the ward with Kristen Gilbert, and this is the way many, many cases around the world start like this. They start like this. You see, every time this nurse Julian is on duty, the death rate goes up. Nurse Julian takes a week off, the death rate goes down. Does that mean Nurse Julian is a serial killer? No. Maybe Nurse Julian has the most complex cases. Maybe there are other reasons for that. But, you know, there's something also very interesting about these cases that Nurse Julian has. You see, it seems that these patients were not expected to expire when they did. In fact, many of them were actually improving. Then all of a sudden, we find that they're in a code. Well, what is a code? A code is a cardiac arrest, and the bells and whistles go off, and nurses and doctors come running in with the crash cart. It's very, very exciting. It's a very exciting experience to be in, much more exciting than your routine nurse duties, all right? And it seems like these people that all expired, they went into code when Nurse Gilbert was on duty, and she was only a part-time nurse, and the death rate went up dramatically. In fact, you know, something very, very interesting is that when you looked in Nurse Gilbert's evaluation, she was like an average nurse until it came to a code. Then she got an A+ rating. She was outstanding. In fact, the doctors would say, you know, if I ever coded, I would want Nurse Gilbert there.
Oh, shit. So she wanted the thrill to be able to save them.
She put them into code to try to become a hero. And whether they died, they died. If they didn't, they didn't. All right? Just to bring attention not only to herself, but when a code was called, a number of people had to respond. One of these people was actually her boyfriend, even though she was married, her boyfriend who happened to be a VA police officer because the protocol called for a VA police officer to respond to a code. And people testified that during the code, these two would be like grabbing each other, like grab ass going on and all during the code. Yeah, to her it was almost like a sexual experience as well. So not only is she showing off for the staff and her boyfriend, but she's getting off on these things as well. Well, these brave whistleblowers went to management. And of course, and this is true throughout the world, not just the VA, throughout the world. And I could give you many, many examples of this. Whistleblowers go to management and they hear something like this. Nurse, did you actually see Kristen Gilbert harm anybody? Well, I didn't see Kristen Gilbert harm anybody, but I told you when, you know, how these codes come and she always responds to the codes, and I told you all that. Can I ask you a question about your own background, nurse? Is your license up to snuff? Is everything in your background up to snuff? Because if you make these allegations, in some ways you become under investigation yourself. If I drug tested you right now, are you going to turn out positive? I ask this just for your own protection, nurse, just for your own protection. Because once you make these allegations, she's going to come back and she's going to start saying all kinds of things about you. Are you prepared for that? And by the way, nurse, what do you think would happen if the word got out here that we had an employee killing people? I'm going to tell you what happened. There was a hospital in New Jersey. One doctor wasn't killing his own patients. He was killing the patients of another doctor. All right? So they went to trial. The story went out. You know what happened to that hospital? They changed their name 3 times and they had to go out of business. Do you want that to happen here, nurse? Do you want to lose your job? Do you want her to lose your job and her to lose your job and me to lose my job? So you know what, nurse? Just go back. Just go back to your office and don't say anything. Now, it just so happened that these whistleblowers, they're human beings, and they had problems with their background. They had some drug issues. They had some problems. But in spite of that, incredible courage. They called my office, and that's how we got involved. And that's what started the investigation of Kristen Gilbert. If it wasn't for these 2 brave whistleblowers, if I had to rely on the management, I would have never even known about it. And this is true. I could give you many examples of how management has covered up for medical serial killers throughout the world.
Do you think it's more because they just assume, oh no, that could never be happening here. It's just a shittier doctor and we don't want the attention of that?
Well, I'm sure there's some willful blindness, because who wants on their watch, to have a story come out that their doctors and nurses are intentionally look, doctors and nurses kill people all the time, but that's not intentional.
Yes.
I mean, things happen, all right? Whether it be malpractice or accidents or God knows what, all right? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about intentionally murdering their patients. If you've seen the TV show The Good Nurse or read the book, it's about Charles Cullen from New Jersey. Charles Cullen was a nurse that started out in, not VA, started out in Pennsylvania, went through New Jersey. When the first hospital suspected that he was harming patients, they were happy to move him on to the second hospital, which was happy to move him on to the third hospital, which suspected killing, which was happy to move him on to the 4th hospital, to the 5th hospital, to the 6th hospital, to the 7th hospital, to the 8th hospital, to the 9th hospital, to the 10th hospital.
10.
Where finally, a brave whistleblower called the authorities. Okay? Well, when the police went back to hospital number 1, number 2, and number 3, do you think the hospitals cooperated with the police?
No, it's not their problem anymore.
Just the opposite. They did everything they could to hide information from the police because they didn't want to show that they had internal investigations that knew this guy was doing it, but they didn't call the police because they were so happy to move this guy on to the next hospital and the next hospital. And there are cases like this throughout the world. And ask yourself this question. Have you ever read it anywhere that any of these managers, whether it be a nursing home or a hospital where numerous patients died, were criminally prosecuted for aiding and abetting these murders?
I've never personally read that.
Well, that's because it doesn't exist. All right? And until it exists, this is going to continue. Because where's the financial incentive? Well, we know unlike fraud cases where there's a financial incentive for employees to file lawsuits and get money, there's no financial incentive if you report that a nurse is killing people. Yeah. There's no key tam. There's no financial incentive for that. If you're a manager, all your financial incentives are based around saving the reputation of the hospital. That's where your financial incentives are. So until a manager somewhere in the world is criminally prosecuted for aiding and abetting these murders, and we change the whistleblower laws, this is going to continue. There are a number of cases ongoing right now as we speak throughout the world.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.